We are back with another Buckeye Talk Rapid Reaction. I'm Nathan Baird from cleveland.com, along with Doug Lesmerises and Stephen Means. Wyatt Davis of Ohio State's two-time All-American guard, selected with the 86th pick overall in the third round by the Minnesota Vikings, another NFC North pick for the Buckeyes. We thought Wyatt Davis, I predicted Wyatt Davis would be the second Ohio State player taken after Justin Fields going in the first round. He ends up being the fourth player taken and the second offensive lineman after Josh Myers went at the end of the second round. So a longer drop than we expected for Wyatt Davis. Certainly going into the season, we expected much higher. We thought he might be in that kind of rare contention to even be a first round kind of interior lineman. His final season at Ohio State did not play out that way. Injuries were a factor, but he also did not play to the same level as he did in 2019. But this is still a position where you think the Vikings are probably taking him thinking he makes a quick impact as a third round guy on the interior of the offensive line.
It's funny, Josh Myers got picked in Green Bay to replace Corey Linsley. Pat Elflein was a guard in Minnesota, got released in the middle of last year, and now they pick Wyatt Davis. It's funny, Ohio State has not had a ton of guards drafted over the years. Even Pat Elflein, who was the 70th overall pick, he played center his last year. Michael Jordan was a guard who played center his last year. He was the 136 overall pick, but I'm always looking for comparisons. Jonah Jackson winds up getting drafted before Wyatt Davis. Jonah Jackson was the number 75 pick last year. Wyatt Davis goes 86. But maybe you thought he fell, Nathan. He went 86. I predicted him 88. Steven predicted him 83. So, Steven, you and I are not surprised by this.
No, I'm not. I think, in a world where some of these guys who have opted out and have still gone pretty high, regardless of position, because it's been all over the place, whether it's wide receivers or tackles or whatnot, I think Wyatt Davis is probably the first Buckeye that's been taken so far where you can make a strong case for it. Had he just decided to not play when he initially opted out, when the Big Ten decided to cancel the season, had he just not come back when the Big Ten reinstated things, he probably would have been in the 60s. Just because all they have is that 2019 film, and they're just trusting that the same way they are with some of these other guys. There's some other people that we might be able to say that with, but he didn't change positions. He's doing the exact same job that he did in 2019, and yet he fell from being a guy that we were discussing because he has an interior lineman be a first rounder to now he's a mid-third round pick. That's just interesting to me. I think, yeah, he is a plug-and-play guy. It's interesting. NFC North teams are just replacing Buckeyes with Buckeyes right now. But, yeah, this is the first Ohio State player that we've seen where it's been a significant drop because not even Justin Fields was that much of a drop, and that's a quarterback in a different conversation.
Well, had he come out at the end of last season or had he opted out, like you said, he also would have been healthier this season. I mean, there were Ohio State players that we've heard. Josh Myers is one of them. Shaun Wade was another one. Guys who were playing through injuries that they weren't really disclosing during the season and being kind of secretive about it. Wyatt Davis wasn't like complaining about an injury during the season, but it was obvious something was bothering him. He said it happened during the Indiana game. The Michigan State game stands out to me, a game where he looked like he was in serious pain, and we thought it could be something long-term. In the playoffs, he was dealing with something else. The Alabama game, it was clear something was wrong. And so that definitely, I think, affected the grades he got this year, the way he played this year. He did not have to have surgery. He was healthier and able to come back and participate in most of his pro day, or I think all of his pro day, really. So that bodes well for him being able to get off on the right foot to start his NFL career. But to me, he's been a hard guy to gauge because I thought this year he was a little bit more ordinary to the naked eye. But man, in 2019, a lot of instances where you saw him getting out in the second level and just crushing guys. And I really do wonder if the injury held him back from that kind of explosiveness. And I'm curious what you thought of that, Doug, because, I mean, we all thought of him last year. It wasn't just the pundits kind of saying that he might be on this kind of trajectory. I mean, we saw it with our eyes that he'd had this sort of breakthrough in 2019. You just assumed that the improvement in 2020 might carry him to an even higher level.
I think Steven makes a really interesting point because I think it's been good that the opt-out guys have not been punished in the draft. Penei Sewell went high. Micah Parsons went high. Rashad Bateman went high. Good. They shouldn't. Caleb Farley went high. I'm glad that's happening. But it's interesting to think about because I do think Ohio State sort of made this case all year. They hit that stretch of the season where they played a week, they were off a week. They played a week, they were off a week. They did have a weird year. I think they had a weird year where it was kind of hard. They got through it as a team. I think it was hard for guys to put great film up, to put up great film week after week. And the more you play, teams in the NBA and the NFL always want more film. And as soon as they get more film, they pick you apart. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, well, great. Thanks for the extra 8 games of film. Why'd you do this wrong? Why'd you do this wrong? And I think, Steven, you might be right. From a personal standpoint, now, he would have regretted it for the rest of his life. Mm-hmm. If they went to the national championship game and Wyatt Davis was working out in California, he would have been driving himself nuts. So I think he made the right decision for himself. But this is what happens. I think he's an NFL starter. I think he might be the best guard that I've seen in 16 years covering this team. Because, again, it's not a huge guard history, right? Billy Price moved inside. Pat Elflein moved inside. Michael Jordan moved inside. Jonah Jackson was really good. I don't know. I mean, Jonah Jackson's a good player. I think I'd rather have Wyatt Davis. That's not a shot at Jonah Jackson. Jonah Jackson started for the Lions last year. And again, like the NFC North is stacking Ohio State linemen. I think Wyatt Davis goes to Minnesota and starts and is good.
I agree.
He has an NFC North lineage too. His grandfather, Willie Davis, was a great player, played for the Packers back in the day and other teams, Browns. So just a great history there. And I agree with you, Doug. I think that he is a guy that is probably going to, as a good shot to exceed this draft pick in terms of the value that he returns to his team. More of these coming. Stay with us here on the YouTube channel. I'm Nathan Baird. He's Doug Lesmerises. He was Steven Means. And that was Buckeye Talk.